Hey everybody, welcome back to the Club Fin DJ interview series. We're ready for the deep dive. I got Vicerion here with me. I'm Stitcharoo. Let's get cracking. So tell us what you've done to prepare for Club Fin.
For me, preparing mainly just consisted of it's a little hard to describe because for me this is my first major event that I'm playing at because I've played at smaller to medium sized clubs here in VR, but this is my first major one, so for me it's kind of getting ready to play for a lot larger of an audience than I'm used to. So kind of getting over a little bit of that social anxiety that's going to be there because there's gonna be a lot of people watching. And then
Any
as
tips
well
or
as
tricks
just
for getting over the social anxiety? Like, do you have like a thing that you pump yourself up or calm yourself down?
for me mainly it's just you know kind of get for me I just like getting caught up in what I'm doing. So if there's a song I like playing or something along those lines, um it's easier for me to kind of forget about it for a little while. So that's kind of how I deal with it mainly. It's just kind of I get caught up in the music,
You
and
drop
that's
into
the
the
biggest thing for
flow.
me. Oh yeah, you know it.
Right, especially when you're in like the drum and bass section, you have that kind of
Mhm.
bouncy rhythm, and you
Oh yeah.
like if you ever watching anybody do drum and bass, you could just see them just start
If
bouncing to
you've
the
ever
time.
if you've ever seen Valen play in person, he's always like this the entire time.
Either that or laying on the subwoofers.
That's always, or he's got the little Valen Junior up there.
Bound Junior, of course. So you mentioned playing for some of the other clubs within VR. Have you done any Meet Space live shows before or just VR clubs?
I haven't done anything in person other than like small little room parties at like cons.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Still valid.
but I have done a little bit here in VR. I first started at Strawberry Potatoes Sunday Service. That was where
Sunday
I did my first
service.
set, as well as I did my first live set there. Um, and then about a month later, after doing that set, I got accepted into Vibe Night for the first time. Um, and then about 8 months or so later, I did my first non-fandom related event, which was Muzz's Sanctum.
Oh,
So
nice.
that was a very exciting thing to do, and a lot of people there liked it. Um,
Muzz is a cool cat.
Oh yeah, but I think my biggest one that I've ever done is actually a tie between New Year's or not New Year's, but Foxconn Cyberpunk, which was a four-way
Yeah.
back-to-back between myself, Linksy, Valent, and Sticky Paw.
That was
And
incredible.
then that was so much fun to make. And then the other biggest one would have been Vibing with Pride, which was the Pride Month Vibe Night, which I did with Flinksy. So those are the two biggest ones I've done. I haven't really done too much live yet, just because I don't always have the time to do it or the reliability with my own work schedule. But I do what I can, so I try to get more of the pre-records done.
How's your experience been with doing back-to-backs?
Oh, it's once I get going, I get going. Like my first one was a little event that me and my group of friends threw together called Boss Way, which was each one of us did half an hour segment of drum and bass. So it was like myself, Valent, Witty, Linksy, Noda, NBN, and Dev. We all kind of did our own little thing. So there's some Neurofunk in there. There was some dance floor. There was liquid that we went all over the place to kind of, keep consistent with the energy flow. Um, and that was kind of my first one that I did. Um, And then I did Vibing with Pride with Linksy. That went off without a hitch. Like, that was one of the best nights in my life to this day. Like, it holds a special place in my heart because Linksy is actually one of the people who helped me start DJing. Let alone, he's one of my biggest inspirations since I saw him play at MFF 2022. That was an awesome experience.
Oh yeah, Linksy is such a
Um,
cool cat.
he's a very talented DJ. He's a very sweet being. I love him to death. Um, that went off without a hitch. And then Foxconn Cyberpunk was just us screwing around for literally an hour. We just kind of started going and going and going and going, and it just kind of didn't stop. And they were like, we have like this long left. Let's just send it.
And I
So,
think the archive, you can go back and actually get the whole club to replay the show as it
hmm
was. So you get all the lights and the visuals and everything
hmm
else. So we've kind of touched on a little of the questions that I usually ask everybody else, like your inspiration and DJs and stuff that you look up to. Let's kind
Linksy's
of
not the only
mix
one.
those. Absolutely, absolutely. Let's kind of mix that question into more. How do you go about finding your library and then selecting what to play? And what are your inspirations for that process?
The people that really got me into it were Valent and Linksy. Those are the main two who helped me start, and that's kind of where I base a lot of what I do off of. And when I'm looking for music, I tend to look for a lot of stuff with a lot more vocals in it, because I really love songs with vocals and whatnot, as well as a lot more of the dance floor D&B, because it is my favorite. If you ask anybody, I am a huge metric simp, hands down. I am a big metric fan. Sub Focus, my favorite. If you look at my library, it's like 50 Sub Focus songs, including
Nice.
remixes.
What are some of the techniques that you've picked up and put into your mixing?
I am actually very heavy into stems mixing because a lot of my songs will themselves have vocals in them, but the way I actually will make them work with each other is by using stems to remove the vocals from the songs. Um,
Stems is, of
and
course, isolating
yes, yep,
individual parts of the music and then keying them to either buttons or ways to put them in and out of songs at points that you
yep.
decide.
There's a lot of things that can be done with that, and it allows you to get very creative with doing mashups and whatnot. So it's a very useful feature to have. Um, so I very much love using it. So that way it helps me kind of keep the groove going and make things that would not normally work with just normal EQ mixing work otherwise. So it's a very useful thing to have, and that's one thing I really love incorporating.
Do you have a MIDI controller for that?
I do not yet. I do it all by the knobs that I have on my own controller, or by doing really fast keybinds with my my actual keyboard. So
Cool
it's a lot of
beans.
handwork in terms of going from here to over there real fast.
What is, along with that, what is the hardware setup that you have? So, like, what is your controller and then your software?
So I use a Pioneer DJ FLX6 for my controller. I got that back about a month after I started DJing. And I use Virtual DJ. I popped in on Valent one day while he was mixing in Discord, and I was like, what program is that? Because I was a little curious. And because he was just screwing around in there, and he's like, oh, it's Virtual DJ. And I said, one moment, please, while I proceed to go buy the software.
Right.
Um, so he kind of gave me a little of a crash course in like 30 minutes on how to do it, and I just kind of went from there. So that's mainly what I use. I've tried Serato once. I could never really get used to it. Same with record box. It's just I can't get used to it, so I use what I'm most comfortable with, what happens to be virtual DJ.
Kick ass. All right. So I like to end these interviews asking everybody kind of the same question because we've all been there, right? We were all starting DJs or, people looking up at those, buffoons on the stage being like, I want to be one of those.
Oh
Um
no, it's almost like I've been in that spot.
what's a
Where
piece of
I know
advice?
there was literally a day where that happened. I told that to you. You were one of the people I first saw, so
Ah. But what's a piece of advice that you could give somebody who's wanting to do what you do?
um never stop trying. Like for me, as much as it's been a little rough throughout the past year or so I've been DJing. So even though I don't get to play as at many places I'd like to, or at the events I'd like to, you just can't keep on going because I did get denied my first Furality, which for me myself I was like it sucked, but I'm like there's always next year, there will always be a next year, you know, so you kind of just you got to keep on going. One of the things is don't be afraid to ask for help because I've noticed it with a lot of my friends who've either gone to me for help or have been a little curious about it themselves. I've always told them, don't be afraid to ask me. There's a lot of DJs in this community who are more than willing to help people out. And that's especially how I was brought in to it, where I had so many friends, like Razor, Fallon, you, Linksy, all these different people going, if you have any questions, or if you ever want help or whatever,
Oh
feel
yeah.
free to ask. So that's the one thing is, and I actually do it pretty regularly, where it doesn't look like it, but I will actually, if I'm not sure of something, or I'm like, hey, how does this sound? And I'll send a little segment of what I'm working on to a friend. I'm like, how does this sound to you? And they're like, oh, that sounds great. Or like, hey, this is a little clashy here, so you might want to like tone this down a little bit, or that doesn't work at all. You might want to find something else. Um,
Stop.
that happens. So stop, Doctor the Hand.
Stop.
Um, um,
Hit eject on the player
but
right now.
but that's one of the really biggest things I've seen. And I've actually kind of directed my friends as well to those people because I want them to be able to have the same opportunity I had, where they get to not only meet these people and get to know these people, but also be comfortable asking them for help when they're not sure of what they're working on, or if they are not sure of anything, like, oh, hey, how does this software work, or is there something you would recommend regarding how I or what I use to mix, or whatever it be, because there's everybody's may have their own unique input.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's something that we kind of pride ourselves in. Not specifically Club Finn, but just us fandom DJs in general, especially here in VR, that we have this community that we've built over the past 4 or 5 years. And
Mm-hmm.
it's one of the most open and easygoing communities of DJs and performers and AV crew that I've ever seen.
And
And
it's
yeah,
actually
go ahead.
very interesting you say that, because someone I knew a while back didn't this was before I even started DJing. They had told me they didn't see VR as a valid form of DJing because it wasn't in person and all that. And personally, I myself would disagree with that, because it actually shows a lot more that not only are you doing it in VR, or with this headset on, and people do this live with these headsets on. I've done it before. Um, it takes a lot more effort to try and set up a spot over there, away from your computer, where you're not seeing anything that's going on around you. You just have whatever's in front of you. Your controller's up here on your head.
Not
Um,
accidentally
you
hitting
know,
buttons with the
yep,
controllers
and
hanging
not
off your
accidentally hitting
hands.
buttons. Yep. So you have controllers in your hands that are actually making it even harder to mix than it normally would be, because oh, I can use my fingers like I do normally, like this, but with my controllers, there's a uh, segment that's just kind of missing. So I actually have to use my instead of my pointer and my thumb, I use my middle finger and my thumb.
Fair.
Um, because
Sacrifices.
that's the only way
Real.
I can make that work. So it's one of those things now, just kind of seeing how this community's grown in the past 5 or so years, from very small and a very kind of like very like secluded group to so many people. Like if you look at all these big cons now, FWA has a lot of VR DJs playing there.
It's almost all from our
As
VR
of this
circles.
time that this is being done, they've released their lineup, and it was interesting seeing how many different people there were on that lineup.
Shout out to
Um,
Loprov!
Shout out to
Struts and
Loprov.
Kids!
Yup. Friendly Phantom,
Friendly
Valen.
Phantom, yeah!
Yup. So there's a lot of the people who are, yeah, finding their roots in the VR community, which is helping them grow, and allowing them to play these really big cons, because they're getting that experience in VR. They can go play at these different clubs, whether it be Vibe Night, iWait, Sunday Service, Radiant Fox, you name it.
Yeah. Well, that's about all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining the interview series and watching. Thank you so much, Vicerion, for sitting down
No
with
problem.
me and talk. And we will catch you on the dance floor. Check y'all later. Bye.